It's Tuesday, September 2nd, and welcome to this latest edition of Whether or Not. I had to remind myself, Brian, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yep, short week.
For me. You know, for you, it's a different story because you were gracious enough to work for me yesterday on Labor Day. But did you have a good weekend? We haven't talked since.
Yeah, we had a camp out with some of the folks. We were kind of in part of a couple groups, but one in particular that camps on Labor Day weekend with the girls on that side of things. So they got to be out with their friends, and we were out at Palisades, and that was really nice. I had not been to the new part of the park yet that opened, just a year or two ago. So that was kind of nice, and the youth tenting area was nice, and then got to go down to the Palisades, and it's always a treat, isn't it, to see these things in our local backyard that if you don't go there, if a gap of time goes by, and then, you have to remind yourself, we've got a lot of gems here in our backyard.
That we do. Now, the big question is, I think when we left on Friday, you said, usually when you go camping, it rains. Were you able to dodge any of the raindrops?
Oh, no, it rained. It rained right on top of us. It was the only speck on the radar late Sunday afternoon. It was about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And that was it, though, really. It was funny, though, on my way back and forth, I had to run a couple trips to the house, and going through Brandon, I think it was twice it happened. There were downpours in between where I'm at, closer to Canton, and then up toward Garrettson, it was dry, but in between it rained. So it was kind of one of those weekends where the haves and have-nots were out there.
Haves and have, and it started with some heavier rains in parts of central, maybe the plains of western South Dakota. Mm-hmm. We'll get to some of those numbers coming up here as we go through this latest edition of Whether or Not. Other things that are in the offering for today, we'll talk a little bit more about Labor Day with those rain amounts and other rainfall numbers from this summer. And we will be waving goodbye to these warm temperatures from today. 70s and 80s in our forecast. Wave goodbye to those for a limited time, we'll say, because I think some of those numbers will try to come back. But we are looking at much cooler air. That'll come in with a lot of wind, too. Actually, we'll have 2 hits of some cooler weather or colder weather that's on its way. Here's a futurecast for today. I think the majority of the day will be dry. We might be able to bubble up a couple of scattered showers or thunderstorms here across parts of, say, eastern, southeastern KELOLAND, as well as northeastern South Dakota. We could get a couple of scattered showers, maybe an isolated thunderstorm or two. Those will run through. I think we'll have more widespread rain that will eventually come down from North Dakota as we go through the late evening hours and into tonight. And don't be surprised to see some of that rain linger for tomorrow morning in southern KELOLAND. And then once that leaves, we'll try to bring in some sunshine, but there will be smoke in the air from Canadian wildfires as we'll have strong northerly winds for tomorrow. A marginal risk for severe weather today, hail and wind being the main threat out of any storm that does develop. We'll have highs that will reach the 70s and 80s, 86 today, Rapid City, middle 80s in south central South Dakota. We'll try to hit 80 today in Sioux Falls and 82 in Aberdeen. Tonight's forecast, with the rain moving through, we'll have temperatures fall to the 50s. We'll talk more about our Labor Day weekend coming up. Welcome back to Whether or Not. We talked about what Brian did over the Labor Day weekend. As for myself, you worked, too. We already talked about you working Monday and Sunday morning. Right?
Yeah, I got to be with Perry Sunday morning.
How did that go? I was able to work with him on Saturday morning.
Yeah, so we tracked some of the rain that was around. At that time, we were kind of focused more in central South Dakota. But, it's a quick show. That Sunday morning, kind of flies by quickly.
It's an hour.
It is.
Right? But you have 6 main weather hits. Saturday morning's also an hour, but we have 4 main weather hits.
Right. It's a different format. And, the weekends, though, it's always nice to be able to plug back in a little bit. I always feel like, too, when I've worked more consecutive days, not that, over the weekend, when you don't work, then you're having to kind of recuperate a little bit or try to figure out, Monday, all the latest ongoings. But, hey, I've had, run of days. And now, hopefully in September, we'll see what we have on our agenda, because I'm sure we'll get into some very nice patterns, some fall-like patterns.
Oh, yes.
We're going to talk about that coming up.
Yeah, we'll have these ups and downs as we do go over the next, we'll say week. It's in the 7-day forecast. But we had the rain over the holiday weekend, and here's a look at some of those numbers. We had the heaviest numbers found across, we'll say, parts of west central South Dakota into the plains of western KELOLAND. 18 miles north of Phillip, approached 5 inches of rainfall. The number came in here at 4 3/4. Faith at a little bit more than 4. And then you see a lot of Pierre on this list. 7 miles to the north of Pierre, 2 1/3, 1 mile southwest, coming in about an inch and 2/3. And then officially at the capital, we had 1 1/4, 1.27, Kennebec coming in at a little bit over an inch. I had some hit and miss rain at the house, not much. The Sioux Falls number, I've seen some numbers around 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch, and I think officially we stayed less than 1/10 of an inch for an official rainfall amount in Sioux Falls itself.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting, though, as you mentioned, the variety of other parts of town that picked up rain?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think it was Saturday. Yes, it was. It was Saturday late afternoon. I had an errand to run on 57th Street on the east side of town, east of Sycamore, and went in, dashed into the store, and as I'm sitting there in the checkout, all at once you just hear downpour, and everybody stops and looks out the window.
Oh, they didn't look to you and say,
No,
what's
they
going
didn't
on,
look to
Brian?
me at that moment. No, we were all looking out the window, and you could sure see that rain coming down. And then by the time I got checked out, it was about done.
Yeah, they were quick.
It was. They're very fast.
Right, but there were some areas that it seemed like they were slow to move. There wasn't much movement to them. Mm-hmm. And an example was what happened yesterday in southwestern Minnesota. You were showing some numbers earlier where they were able to pick up an inch of rainfall out of some of those showers and thunder showers.
Absolutely. Adrian and I think Fulda again picked up some good rain. In fact, the map I've got here, this one actually kind of visually demonstrates some of what you just talked about, the big rains out near Pierre over the course of the weekend. And then East River, you got spots. You got streaks of rain. And you notice, too, a lot of these are oriented from southeast to northwest, and that's exactly what came into Sioux Falls. All the rain actually worked its way from northwest Iowa. That was Saturday night, and it was, again, the case late Sunday, too. And then
I had to explain to Melanie what was going on because she was looking at the Storm Tracker app, too, and puts it into motion. She's like, well, this is weird. Everything's coming in from Iowa.
Yes. Isn't that always the case, too, when you get these upper-level lows? It can throw people for a loop, literally. Mm-hmm.
You can't just,
wow, you watch that spin.
Right. You can't just bring up a still image of the radar in case, of what we had this past weekend. Remember, we had that slow-moving low-pressure system, ended up to make its way into central, eastern Nebraska, and strong enough to bring in our rain chances from the east across eastern KELOLAND.
Yeah, and a lot of that, too, was just because of we're kind of at, late August and early September. You can kind of get into a real slow pattern where these upper-level lows get cut off. So, and by the way, also we had a discussion about Minnesota last week about that blocking high. Mm-hmm. Now, the rain that you see on this map, this is what's been happening the last 24 hours. If you go back in time over the weekend itself, it was much drier there. So that whole idea really, it was the real thing. It actually prevented most of that rain from moving east. Instead, it took a track to the south. Look what it did. Look at Nebraska. I mean, Lincoln, Nebraska. North of there, they had extremely heavy rainfall. St. Joe, Missouri, Manhattan, Lawrence, Kansas, Salina, Emporia. Look at all that rain down that direction. So that's what happens when the steering flows get blocked. So now we've jarred everything loose. And I don't think there's any doubt in our minds that this is northwest flow. This is a train. And when it starts coming on in, you're going to feel it.
We're laying down the tracks.
We're laying down the
train's coming, and there's going to be 2 coming, right? Instead of cold fronts, we got 2 in the end. We got 2 fronts coming down those tracks. And one comes in, well, looks like tomorrow we'll have the cold front move through. We'll have rain tonight. So for some of us, yes, it will move through tonight, rain tomorrow morning, and then we'll just follow these winds. The winds will be stronger tomorrow. That's one thing I've noticed. It was kind of hard to open up the house every now and then because we didn't have much wind to help, get light. That air to circulate. So I kept the air on over the weekend.
Yeah.
It wasn't overly hot, but just enough to, keep us cool in the house.
So now my question is, with the cold front coming in tomorrow, wanting to open up the house probably with some north winds, but is the smoke in the air going to be a problem?
Is that going to be a problem?
Could be.
See how close that gets to the surface. But, that northwest wind will have some gusts near 30 miles per hour. But before we get onto that subject, let's go ahead and take a look at the summer rain totals that we've had. And this is something that I wanted to do over the weekend. I actually waited until this morning to look it up, but Watertown recorded their heaviest rainfall amount, the wettest summer on record for Watertown, just shy of 18 inches.
That's amazing. Look at that number. And that's a big number. I mean, you look at just in that period of time of even the records going into Sioux Falls, it'd be interesting to see what the wettest summer in Sioux Falls has been. I know your number there says 11.64, but that's 43rd in the placement of well over 100 years, right?
Right. And I also, I looked up that July 23rd is when the southeast side had the heavy rain. My house had over 4 inches of rain.
Right.
So just out of curiosity, I added 4 inches to that 11.64, and that jumps it to the 8th wettest. That's just a matter of a couple of miles, really.
Yeah. So, and if you add 4 inches to that number, you're still less than what Watertown has.
Right.
So I would imagine if Sioux Falls had almost 18 inches of rain, they'd have to be close to first place for wettest summer. Yeah,
that's one thing.
Pretty big numbers, though, no matter how you slice and dice it here.
And it was nice that Pierre was able to get some rain. Maybe it disrupted some holiday plans, but you see coming in at just over 8 inches, good enough for maybe 47th on the list. I know we've had some dry locations in central and south central South Dakota as of late, but it was nice to bring in at least some of that rain as long as it did not disrupt any plans that you have. Well, stay with us. We will talk about the much cooler air that's on its way. Welcome back to Weather or Not. Much cooler air is on the way, and it'll also come with, you guessed it, a little bit of wind, or shall I say, a lot of wind. We'll see these wind gusts near 30 miles per hour for some of us. That will help bring in much cooler air coming in from the north. It's all a matter of timing, as is anything in weather. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these winds for tomorrow. These wind gusts from the north near 30 miles per hour. That will cover more or less everybody. From Rapid City to the east to include Marshall, Spencer getting close to 30 miles per hour with some of these stronger wind gusts. Now, take a look at what's expected as we go through the day on Thursday. We'll see a southwest wind in eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. That will give us a quick bump up in the temperatures, probably returning to the 70s. We'll see if we get any 80s to return. But behind that front, we're talking wind gusts approaching 50 in north central South Dakota. Mobridge with a wind gust near 50 at 48 miles per hour. Same for Aberdeen, 45 mile per hour wind gust at 5 in the afternoon in and around Pierre. So we are looking at very strong wind gusts with this secondary front that's moving through as we go through the day on Thursday. Still with strong northwest winds for Friday afternoon. I'm very interested to see what happens with these wind speeds as we do go probably Thursday night into Friday morning. We could see another hit of some colder air that's coming in to bring these temperatures back down to near 40 degrees. And some of this will actually linger as we do go through this coming weekend. Now, not only bringing in these cooler temperatures, but lower dew point temperatures. As we'll see, these numbers eventually fall, probably hitting, well, I would say the 30s. 40s, and that's pretty good measurement as to how cool these temperatures can get as we do go through this coming weekend toward the end of the week. That's a look at Wednesday with that initial hit of that cold front coming through. And then as we go into Friday, Saturday, notice how we have these dew point temperatures that are trying to fall to the 30s for some of us, to the lower 40s by Saturday afternoon. So that's very dry air that's coming in with these strong north to northwest winds. And as I mentioned, it's a good measurement if we get clear conditions, light winds, as to how far our overnight lows can fall. Here's a look at Thursday. Now, these are three models that we like to look at. We're looking at the Canadian, American, and European model. As you can see, it's eastern South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa with these temperatures, these air temperatures in the upper 30s to the lower 40s. So for some of us, it could be some of the coldest air of the season that's on its way. Are we looking at frost? Well, maybe in low-lying areas. If we can get some of those temperatures to fall to the low to middle 30s, we can get some patchy frost. But right now, widespread frost is not a concern. Some of the coldest temperatures we've had so far since August 1st, Hill City stands out. And that happened Sunday morning, fell to 27. Eureka coming in at 39, Mobridge at 41, Aberdeen at 42, Britain also at 42, as well as Sisseton. Watertown, 43. Now, that's Sioux Falls. I know that's a capital I. I got pretty quick with my typing. It's not Slikes Falls or Slooks Falls, but Sioux Falls as low as, say, 44 degrees, and that happened twice. Huron has fallen to 44, Gregory down to 45, and you see Brookings and Pierre also down to a temperature of 45 degrees. So what's in the future? As we do take a look at the pattern ahead, we'll continue to follow these ups and downs with our temperatures. We'll have some days where we're able to return the numbers at or above average, middle, maybe the upper 70s, some areas into the 80s, but we'll also follow these cool afternoons, and they'll come with these strong north to northwest winds that we'll have for Wednesday, then again as we go through the day on Thursday. But what about our rain chances? We'll go through a period or two where it looks like we will have mostly dry conditions, but as we start to bring in more systems, probably from the west and from the northwest, that will help increase at least our chances to see some rain across the area. This is a look at Wednesday. With that initial front that's moving through, you can see our rain chances here across south central, southeastern South Dakota. They'll eventually leave the area. And for this weekend, we're looking at dry conditions. Probably start cold, but during the afternoon, 60s, maybe 70s will try to return for some of us. And this happens with dry skies. That's a look at Sunday. As we get into next week, there could be a system that moves through, say, northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and that too can bring in a chance at a couple of scattered showers, thunder showers. I really think that the moisture is rather limited. I don't see, the Gulf opening it up anytime soon, but we will have a return to maybe some higher dew point temperatures, getting back to the 50s, on occasion maybe touching the lower 60s. We'll see how much energy is in the atmosphere to bring in the shower and thunderstorm chances as these systems do run through. And then we're getting into the middle of the month. That's when, climate average highs are probably into the middle 70s by then. And that's more or less what this is showing. We'll have some waffling back and forth with our temperatures as we do get into, say, the middle of the month. But for the most part, we are looking at numbers that will try to return to their seasonal averages. With our chances for rain, they'll be there, but no big systems are really trying to set aim across the central or the northern plains. As we go through the next 14 days here on the model run, notice how it has a dry period in there, and then it brings in maybe better chances for the showers, thunderstorms, as we do hit about the middle of the month. And then for our snowfall outlook, this is something that we started about a week, maybe a week and a half ago, and this goes out 14 days as well. Doesn't show anything for the central or northern plains. Okay, so we're not worried about that. And one newer graphic that I just made this morning, something that we'll continue to show, I would say on a daily basis, just to see where we have some snow cover, if we have anything close to the area. So that's a look at our snow depth, and nothing showing up for that either. I do want to go over to this. Now, this is something that I've shown a couple of times since last week. This is a 45-day model run of snowfall for Sioux Falls, and it has a whole bunch of different members that you see there going up to 100, and you count them down going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 8 of those 100 members are trying to spit out at least some snow. Keep in mind, this is a 45-day forecast, and it holds that snow off until we get into October. That's down here where I have the cursor. So that's where October starts, and that's where it tries to spit out at least a little bit of snow on some of these members here on these model runs. And again, it's only 8 out of 100. So again, that's about 8% chance that we might be able to see something. But it's interesting that it, holds everything off until we get into, well, it looks like until we get into October, and then it tries to bring in at least, some hints, we'll say, of getting some snow, some light snows. But it's always fun watching that. At least I think it's always fun watching that to see what actually happens as those days do get closer, because we know that they're coming too. So be prepared, and we'll try to keep you prepared as well. That's the latest here for Whether or Not. Meteorologist Scott Mundt. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.